Hello everybody and welcome to the final spoiler roundup here, even though it's not all the cards, but I'm probably not going to do a spoiler roundup for 4 more cards to be real with all of you. But this is our last spoiler roundup here for Core Set 2026 before we get into eventually talking about the Investigator starter decks which are just around the corner. We're going to talk about Dexter Drake today, see his front half, his signatures, as well as the rest of the Mystic cards, -1 because there's one card that has not yet been spoiled by the time releasing this video, but it might have been spoiled by the time, or recording this video, it might be released by the time we release this video. I'll show you real magic. After finding scraps of the dangerous and mysterious Necronomicon while fighting in the Great War, Dexter Drake wasted no small effort in hunting down and translating more pages. At first, his goal was to keep its evil contained. However, Dexter's curiosity drove him to delve deeper into the profane text, tempted by the promise of true magique. Dexter is sure he has what it takes to decode the text. He proved his courage in the war and his resourcefulness on stage as a musician, but true magic comes at a cost. Will Dexter prove his mastery over the arcane, or will the arcane overpower him? Dexter Drake, 5 brain, 2 book, 2 fist, 3 foot, performer, and sorcerer. Soaks for 6 and 8. As a reaction after you play an asset, either return another non-story asset you control to your hand, or play a different asset from your hand, paying its cost. Limit once per round. Elder Sign effect, +1, you may return a non-story asset at your location to its owner's hand. I will say, before I even talk about the card, I liked the original Dexter art, but I think that this Dexter art is better. I like this Dexter art. I think that it's like an actual, I don't know, I feel more magician, and you kind of feel him being a little bit more taken in by the mythos, which I think is very interesting. His ability. It's very similar to the other Dexter in terms that it's related to assets. And I think that it is a really good ability, and I think it feels very Dextery, while also, I think it doesn't really feel very particularly mysticky, right? But I think like the Survivor class, Mystics are kind of in their own bubble, right? Like same with Rogues as well, right? That's funny. This art is legit second phase of the Dexter boss fight after he laughs and stands back up. Very true. But he is very, I think that it's a very good Dexter ability, and I think it's going to be very powerful. As a reaction after you play an asset, either return another non-story asset control to your hand or play a different asset from your hand, paying its cost. Something that Travis talks about is a lot of the time when we're looking at an investigator's ability, it comes down to getting an action out of it, right? In some cases, that's a very obvious action, right? Like in terms of Trish Scarborough in the new Core Set, or Finn Edwards if you're one of the old heads, where you just get an ability to evade. But Dexter has the asset, the action here is playing a different asset from your hand, paying its cost. So it's kind of like close to, like, to the idea of like Bob Jenkins, but just for yourself. But also I think the return a non-story asset to your hand gives Dexter a lot of power to be able to control his play area. He can use it to refill spells and other things, and additionally he can also use it to remove Doom, because we saw that there was that Drawn to the Flame replacement. What's it called? Will of the Cosmos, where you place Doom on a player card you control, and then Dexter can pick that card right back up. Very powerful for him. I think the best Dexter art is the book version, but I think the book version art, for the most part, has actually been some of the best investigator art we've had. So I think like the book art goes hard. The book art goes very hard. Back in October, we revealed the new core set for Arkham Horror the card game, which heralds the beginning of an era we're referring to as Chapter 2. With the new core set comes a new set of 5 core investigators, and the last but not least of those 5 is Dexter Drake. Returning to the stage is the new core's Mystic Investigator. Dexter's new approach to investigation has echoes of his original asset discarding playstyle, but takes a fresh and versatile spin. His innate ability triggers after you play an asset of any type, allowing you to either bounce another asset back to your hand, or play a second asset as part of the same action. Right off the bat, this grants Dexter some handy flexibility, allowing him to get 2 cards out of once or refresh a depleted asset by returning it to his hand and then playing it again. Hey, this is what I just said. It's repeating it for me. Any asset with limited uses, such as Cosmic Flame with its 3 charges, or the Cloak of Resonance with its 3 sanity, can suddenly have a lot more staying power when Dexter can refresh it on a whim, and can allow you to pull off some pretty impressive sequences, especially when you take the discount from Dexter's signature event for my next trick into account. Alright, this is a very powerful signature card. 0 cost event, Dexter Drake deck only. Search your deck for a spell or item asset and play it, reducing its cost by 2. Shuffle your deck. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. What I really like about this signature is that they did like a really good like pseudo impression of Motley Maxwell. So it actually feels like something Dexter has always been able to do, right? So it feels very like Dexter has kind of been the mystic who can tutor at level 0. And I like that that's carried over into the new version of him. This is an insane card. Let's just be real, everybody. This is an insane card. And it has so much staying power and legacy that it's gonna be nuts. This is like a easy keep in your mulligan. It's a very powerful signature. I think it's a signature that ultimately has a ceiling, but it upgrades with your deck, and it's very good. It's good early, it's good late, because like if you can just cycle through your deck fast enough, right? Would you believe in other servers people were saying it was very mid? That's crazy. This card reads, find your 5 experience like shriveling and put it into play. Right? Like it basically just changes your mulligan. This card's very powerful. I don't think it's broken or busted, but being able to find what you want is very good. Very good card. For example, say you have Jim Culver and a Lucky Charm in play to help soak some of hits. With the ability on Lucky Charm, you can spend some charges to move a damage and a horror off of Dexter and onto Jim. Then you can use For My Next Trick to search for and play Second Sight for just 2 resources, allowing you to bounce Jim Culver back into your hand, which removes the damage and horror from him. Then, on your next action, if you have the resources, you can play Jim Culver again, fully healed and ready to soak more hits for you. Or alternatively, you could have chosen to bounce the Lucky Charm instead, which would let you replay it and refresh its charges, or you could bounce an asset with Doom on it, such as the asset you targeted with Will of the Cosmos, to clear out the Doom without losing the card. It's very versatile. There's just so much, versatility in Dexter's kit. And you're right, Holy Helicopter, this also says gain 2 resources. It's also like almost an Uncage the Soul at the exact same time. It's an Uncage the Soul from your deck. That's really good. That's very good. But yeah, Dexter has so much versatility that I think that he's gonna just like grow and grow and grow as the card pool gets bigger and bigger. The signature event is early game consistency and late game just icons. I can kind of see the perception of mid. Oh no! I thought people in chat were smart here. I always looked at chat to be like, oh, they're the real ones. They're the real ones here, but nah, man. Tutoring is good all the time. Tutoring is good all the time. Late game, you can just grab another spell thing to put into play, right? You can bounce stuff. Like, that's the thing. It's not just even tutoring something that you need. It's also a way for you to bounce and refill with Dexter's ability, as we see in the blurb down here. I'm sorry, it's a very strong signature. I think people are paying XP for that effect. Like, lots of XP for that effect. Some people, dare I say, even pay 10 XP for that effect, right? It's very powerful. Like, yeah, you have to have it in your mulligan, but I mean, that works for most things. But now you also have 3 copies of your 8 experience worth of spells in your deck, right? By now it should be clear just how versatile Dexter's innate ability is, but the fact remains that you can only trigger it once per round. Not only that, but constantly bouncing your assets back to your hand can get expensive fast. Fortunately, Dexter has some other cards in his pre-built deck to help him navigate the dangers of the Mythos. The event Premonition, for example, tells you what the exact next token will be revealed in the Chaos Bag, which can help Dexter decide which abilities are worth using and what resources are worth spending for a test he's about to make. Even if you know the outcome of a specific test, sometimes a treachery is just too nasty to deal with, in which case the classic Ward of Protection is an invaluable tool in an investigator's belt, trading a bit of Wilson Richards Confirm, train a bit of horror for a moment of safety. In a similar fashion, the skill card Soul Link, which we're going to be looking at in a bit, can grant a powerful boost to any skill test the cost of a horror, which remember you can later heal with Dexter's asset bouncing shenanigans. Finally, if Soul Link is unavailable, or somehow not enough, you have a few extra resources to spend. Spiritual Intuition can power up Dexter's willpower or his combat skill as much as you need, which combos supremely well with the Premonition. But I do agree it's definitely more potent than mid. Yeah, like I can understand as well. I can see the perception of mid, but we know it's not mid. We know it's not mid here, right? It's a tasty treat. Yeah. As you can see, the sky's the limits for this magician's tricks, and its performance will only be grander over time. And speaking of tricks, veterans of Arkham Core, the card game, may recall that the original version of Dexter Drake can include rogue cards in his decks, and this version is no different. If you're curious about what sort of rogue cards you can find in his pre-built deck, be sure to check out the preview of Trish Scarborough and the rogue class from a few weeks back. But now we have his signature, the Necronomicon, signature weakness. Asset, Revelation, put the Necronomicon into play in your threat area. It cannot leave play except by the action ability below. You cannot play assets or trigger abilities on other assets you control. As an action, test Brain 5. If you succeed, discard the Necronomicon. If you fail, shuffle it into your deck and take one horror. I'm curious, chat, what do you guys think of this weakness? Dexter Drake is a versatile investigator who can pull off some pretty impressive, dare we say, magical feats, but there's one not-so-little snag that he will eventually have to deal with, the Necronomicon. The source of Dexter's power is also the biggest thorn in his side, as the book pops up now and again to remind him that every gift comes at a price. By forcing itself into play and preventing you from playing or using any other assets until you deal with it, you can't bounce it with Dexter's ability, this cursed tome demands your undying attention whenever it appears in your hands. The book's price is something Dexter can't ignore if he wants to continue his work, and it will just keep coming back until he succeeds its test. Thankfully, with enough tools in his deck and enough friends at his side, Dexter can pull off the greatest trick of all, victory from the jaws of defeat. So I feel like original Dexter had probably one of the best designed weaknesses in the game. Occult Scraps is, like, so damn cool. It's, like, such a well-designed signature weakness. And I think the Necronomicon from the Drake translation is... yeah, because everyone's right in chat, right? Like, the arcane slot is what makes this card, like, a hit above. And I think it's very good that they had to take up a slot. I like that they had the choice between hand and arcane, and they chose arcane because I think arcane is obviously more relevant to mystics. I think it is pretty beatable, especially on standard difficulty, right? You just, like, committed guts to it, and odds are you're going to be okay. The shuffling back into your deck, I think, is a nice thing on the fail. I think, as a whole, it's a pretty well-designed card. And I think, for the most part, the hardest part of this card is going to be the fact that it takes up the arcane slot. But I think that in the wrong moment, when you cannot trigger abilities on assets you control, can be huge, right? Like, imagine being the fighter... You drew the Necronomicon, and then you, like, draw a big-ass enemy during the Mythos phase, and it engages you, and you're like, uh-oh. But what do I do, you know? Because odds are, most of the stuff that you have to evade with or kill with are going to be assets that you have in play. And but the thing that's nice about this card is it's in your threat area, not your play area. So other investigators can trigger it for you. So it can change the sequence there. So that helps soften it a bit. Because if it was in your play area, you wouldn't be able to activate it. But because it's in your threat area, people can. So I think there is a lot of counterplay to this. I think it's a well-designed signature weakness, personally. I don't think it's... The thing is, for me, that is kind of my sticking point that I'm having in my heart of hearts, is that it does not feel as cool as... it doesn't feel as cool as Occult Scraps. So because Occult Scraps, like I said, I think is the coolest design signature weakness we've had. All right, I have to read your sentence a few times, Holy Helicopter. Dexter's ability has both words different and another in it. The reason it matters is because of different by name and because the word different has, but the word another doesn't, I think. What? Either return another. Different. I know different means different by name, but I don't know what you're talking about. Another. I know that, but I don't get what you're saying, to be honest with you. Yeah, I get that. I get that. I don't know what the point is. Well, yeah, so like when the different cares about this thing after you play an asset, right? You can't play like 2 Shrivelings from his ability. But you could return you could return a Shriveling, but you couldn't play another Shriveling. So you could like play a Shriveling to return a Shriveling, but you couldn't play both Shrivelings. Yes. Yeah. All right. That's enough of Dexter. Let's talk about the cards that were spoiled. Starting with Second Sight. 4-cost asset, takes an arcane slot, uses 3 charges, and as an action, investigate using your brain. If you succeed, you may spend 1 charge to discover 1 additional clue at your location. If you reveal a cultist token during this test, remove 1 charge from Second Sight. If you cannot, take 1 horror and discard this card. So, honestly, not too much of a surprise here to see a clue version of Cosmic Flame. It follows traditional trends where the clue one is slightly more expensive than the combat one, which is good. It's the same sort of thing where it's always an investigate, like how this one is always a fight, but you have to spend the charges for the damage. So it's kind of like a Brand of Cthulhu, where you don't have to spend the charges unless you succeed to spend the charges. So Second Sight in and of itself represents 6 clues, and like Cosmic Flame in and of itself guarantees the 6 damage, right? So it's like one of those things where I really like these from, at least to make the Mystic class better in 1 and 2 player, right? Does the token effect on these trigger before you get to use the token for the extra clue and damage? Yes, I think it would. I think it would. Because I think revealing a token is going to happen before you have the time to check if you succeed, right? So my hunch says yes. My hunch says yes. I think that these are good cards, though. I think that they are very nice for the core set to have. And I think that it's... I really like them. I think I like them. This might be sacrilege. But I think I like the design on these cards. I think they are better designed than the original assets, Rite of Seeking and Shriveling. That might get me arrested by a few of my colleagues or some Arkham boomers, but I think that these cards are better than the starting assets that we had, and I think they represent a good showcase of design growth. So yeah. All right, the next one we have is a classic. Fearless is back, baby. This is a 2 experience. Innate developed a skill in the Mystic class. Commits for a brain. If this skill test is successful, heal 1 horror. 2 horror instead if succeeds by 2 or more. Do you know what? I am happy this card is here. Izzy is going to love it. I remember when Izzy came out, there was a lot of talk about if she would get Fearless in some way. And I was very excited for people to see that, yes, she was going to get Fearless in some way because it works very well for her. She obviously loves it. You can also see that there is the art is changed slightly, and they look like they put up the colors a bit. I think it makes it pop a little bit more, which is really, really engaging. I have always liked Fearless. I think Fearless is actually a card I play quite a bit. I like the upgrade into Fearless, too. I think that this is just like a wonderful card to have in the Mystic class going forward. Fearless was the vicious blow, the deduction in the core set, right? I mean, it came out in Doom Await, so it really wasn't, but kind of fit in that space for it. But it's nice to have it here as to be a staple. I love to see it. Dexter's gonna like it. I think most Mystics are gonna like this because most Mystics like this right now. So going forward in Chapter 2, this is a great addition to the card pool. Okay, Spiritual Intuition. 2-cost asset. This is the talent. Lightning Bolt, spend 1 resource. You get +1 brain for the skill test, +2 brain instead if this test is on a spell or ritual card. And then spend 1 resource. You get +1 fist for this test, +2 fist instead if this test is on a spell or ritual card. I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm excited to not talk about these talents anymore. I think the talents are good. Like, I think they're good cards. So like that is kind of nice to see, right? Like I think this is very relevant, like for this thing. Like I think they're better, but they're a little bit dull, and I think overall they're going to get scaled out of the game as we go. I don't get how intuition means extra punch. No. The intuition is the brain. The spiritual is the punch. The spirits are coming in and doing the punching for you. That's how the fist gets in here. Yeah, the intuition is the first one. They should have really called this intuition spirit, like, you know, just to have it fit better for like the card, right? But yeah, punch ghosts, they come in and do it. Is this card gonna be useful for the punch? That's the other question, right? Because I think right now all signs point to no, which is unfortunate. But I'm hoping to see more when Chapter 2 develops. I think of the talents, ultimately, the spell thing is nice. You basically pay like extra to make these nicer, which I think is especially relevant because there's no upgrade in the core box for these, right? Like there's no upgraded second sight. I mean, there's, like I said, there's still one Mystic card waiting, and it's a upgraded card, but it's not going to be both of them, right? Yeah, I think it remains to be seen where this is, how it's going to go. Dexter can Ghost Punch a Decisive Strike, I guess. That is true. I think that what I'm really personally hoping is something that I've been asking for on this channel for a very long time. But he can still beard. He can still get the +1 fist. So he can, like, pay immense to, like, get ahead and break out even. It's not great, but, like, he technically could. But what I'm really hoping that this brings is the Fistic, the 4-fight Mystic. I hope that that's what this is signposting. Or even like some spells that kind of fall into the Brandica Thugga world, but remain primarily in Mystic. And then we see like a 3/3, like a 3-fist, 3-brain. I want to just see some more exploration of the Mystic class. But I do think that this is a very good suite of Mystic cards, and I think the Mystics are pretty happy with what they got. And then the last card we have here is Soul Link. It's a skill, commits for 3 wild icons. As initial cost to commit Soul Link, take 1 horror. It does feel like an MTG card. It does. The vibe is very card. Yeah, like very MTG. feel like there's too much headroom on this card. Yeah, there's a bit. This one doesn't read too bad for me because the door frame, she's like framed in the door, you know? I think like I like seeing the environment she's in, so it doesn't read as much to me, but I think you got a point there. So this is fixed Promise of Power, right? Promise of Power was a bit too strong. What if we made it weaker? But wait a minute. What do we have? We have a slight problem, chat. What if Promise of Power also lets you draw a card or deal a damage to an enemy? That seems pretty good. That seems pretty good. Huh. So that's something that I think is really good, and I'm with you on this, Necro Toaster. I really feel as if with at least the cards that we have here, is that Mystic feels like a self-sacrifice deck now, you know? And I think that this is a really good change for the Mystic class. Self-sacrifice is, it's like black from MTG, right? I think it's a very rewarding mechanic to play with and design around. So I think it's a very successful identity for the Mystic class. I talked about before how I think Survivors are the winner of the core set in terms of power. And while I still think Survivors are probably the winner in terms of power, and it's honestly on the back of Hunter's Instinct, I do think that Mystic has an argument to also be there. But I think overall, Mystic has had the best transition from Chapter 1 to Chapter 2. I think that they've gotten really focused, and I think that they are still advertising openness, and I think that they are rewarding combo play in a way that other classes, except for potentially Survivor, don't seem to be doing, which I think is very interesting and engaging. I think that this is a very successful class, and I'm excited to talk more with them. I think that this guy is probably... So I was going to talk about, like, Olivier being the best card in the cycle, right? But I actually think it might be Jim Culver. I think that this is probably one of the strongest cards that's been released in a long time. And I know that that might not seem the same. It might not seem that way. But, like, there's a lot of pieces. And, like, Dexter with his bounce. I don't know. I think that Jim Culver is gonna cause an impact in every format that he's in. All this, of course, remains to be seen, right? All this remains to be seen. And I'm curious to see them in play. But how would you rate Dexter on the Bryn scale? I think Bryn's going to like original Dexter more. But I do think that he is going to find some good combos to use with this Dexter. But I think he's gonna. I think he'll find the play pattern of OG Dexter from Innsmouth more rewarding. But I think this one will be a good time for him, especially if he gets him into Legacy, which we will. We're gonna keep playing Legacy on the channel. We're gonna do Legacy and Chapter 2. So, and probably even Current and Limited. We're gonna also build our own formats. Right? There's still a lot of Arkham to be played. All right, everybody, that is it for the spoiler roundup. I get to finally take a break. And I say this with some affection because I feel very blessed as a content creator to have all of this stuff to talk about, and I don't want it to change, but I am excited to take a little break from the spoiler roundups. But it's not going to be a long one because spoiler season for the rest of the Chapter 2 stuff is going to be coming out pretty soon. I imagine there might even be an article about the scenarios in there, so we can look forward to that. But also they said that the starter decks spoilers are going to start coming out in like February. So we also have that to look forward to. a lot of new Arkham. And then also, once we're done with that, we have a campaign and then small scenario to look forward to as well. Holy hell. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. You guys have... Sorry, what was that? Are you interested in talking about the blurbs for the Evergreen Decks and the Anthony Store pages? I did not know about that. I probably won't here, but that is really cool. I might do that in another video. Maybe that could be something that I can do with another content creator to bounce off of. But I did not know about that, so thanks for letting me know about that, Beard. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one. And as always, a GG's.